You are about to listen to the words of Fethullah Gulen, a distinguished Islamic scholar and thinker. In this podcast, you will hear his essay, The Function of Mosques.
Mosques hold a unique significance in the hearts of Muslims. For this reason, their construction and maintenance bear great significance. The Prophet gave the glad tidings that God will build a house in paradise for a person who builds a mosque in this world, intending God's pleasure. Upon his arrival in Medina, the Prophet immediately initiated the construction of a mosque. It served not only as a place for administrative, civil, and security gatherings, but also for collective decision-making, consultative meetings on community and state affairs, and a space for believers to express their obedience, worship, and service to God in congregation. So much so that he worked like a construction worker with his companions. Sometimes he carried bricks on his back, sometimes he used a lever, pickaxe, or spade. Free from every kind of bureaucratic understanding, he dug in the ground, broke rocks, and worked as an ordinary person amongst the others. This example of his has been accepted as a Sunnah act among his followers from later generations. One of the first things the commanders of Muslim armies did when they conquered a new land was to establish a mosque, which would enable people to come together and fervently implore God with prayers, lift their hands to the heavens, and offer their servitude to Him. In our time, unfortunately, mosques have lost most of their functions, merely becoming buildings where we can observe our servitude in an outward form. Actually, the Prophet attended to all his duties and responsibilities related to the military, justice, and administration in the mosque. This sunnah has been continued by succeeding Muslim generations for a long time. In those times when all affairs were managed in the mosque, people would first bow their heads in Salah in an air of accountability before God, then rise to fulfill their responsibilities. While they may have unintentionally erred, they found purification through seeking forgiveness from God in their next Salah. The messenger of God expresses this purifying quality of Salah as follows in an authenticated narration. The 5 daily prayers, and from one Friday prayer to the next, and from one Ramadan to the next, are all expiation for whatever sins come in between, so long as one avoids major sins. In another hadith, the Prophet asked his companions whether a person who bathes in a river passing by his door would have any impurity left on him. When they replied in the negative, the Prophet likened this to the 5 daily prayers, explaining that through them, God forgives all sins. We believe that when mosques functioned as they did in ancient times, people would carry out their duties with a clear conscience, inner dynamism, and a sense of accountability before God, guiding their actions accordingly. They will leave behind things that belong to the era of ignorance and come one step closer to Islam. Maybe certain steps have been taken in this respect so far, and some moves have been made, but the desired results are not obtained yet. It is hoped that by making decisions towards this end, mosques can cease to be places solely utilized for specific acts of worship and instead become venues where other duties for the good of society are also fulfilled. As the Quran expresses, those with unwavering faith in God are the ones who enable mosques to fulfill their true purpose and develop them both materially and spiritually. The Quran states the following: only he will maintain God's houses of worship who believes in God and the last day, and establishes the prescribed prayer, and pays the prescribed purifying alms, and stands in awe of none but God. It is hoped that such illustrious persons will be among the ones guided to achieve their expectations. The Ottoman Sultan Ahmed I is known for building his famous eponymous mosque, also known as Blue Mosque, in Istanbul. He was a pious man who expressed his love for the Prophet with a poem in which he expressed his desire to carry the Prophet's footprint, preserved in a museum in Istanbul, as a crown on his head. He was a person totally imbued with an Islamic consciousness. During the construction of this famous mosque, he filled his garment with sand and pebbles like a worker, and then prayed, "O God, please accept this much of goodness from your poor servant Ahmed. Let this be provisions for him in the afterlife." Years later, it is told, one of Sultan Ahmed's descendants had a dream in which he saw Sultan Ahmed, who said that God Almighty had forgiven him by accepting those deeds and admitted him into paradise.
You have just listened to the words of Fethullah Gulen, brought to life through an AI-generated voice. Known for his teachings on faith, interfaith dialogue, peace, and education, Mr. Gulen also inspired the Hizmet movement, a global initiative that promotes democracy, human rights, equality, and nonviolence. To learn more about Fethullah Gulen and the Hizmet movement, visit fethullahgulen.org.